Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Mamata Banerjee underlined the obvious when she said on her Mumbai visit earlier this week that UPA, that is United Progressive Alliance, didn't exist any longer. The fact is, UPA is to exist after the 2014 elections. After that, Congress party may have had alliances with some parties, some former constituents of the UPA in some states, but the UPA itself has ceased to exist. That is true. That's a truism. Now, what she and Prashant Kishore, who we might describe her as NSA, or National Strategic Advisor, said about the Congress, however, is more significant. In her interaction with some leading lights of civil society in Mumbai, in fact, including some from popular culture who are mostly seen to be generally supporting the Congress, at least on social media, Mamata taunted Rahul Gandhi without naming him. She said, to fight back in politics, you have to be on the ground, you can't keep flying away overseas all the time. Now you can fill in the blanks for the name. She didn't use the name, but you know who she's referring to. Congress, Mamata Banerjee said, was no longer convincing anybody. It had it in its gut to fight Narendra Modi. I'm paraphrasing whatever she said, of course. These are not exact quotes from her. Now, Prashant Kishore, on the other hand, made it a 1-2 punch by tweeting the next day that while Congress could still be a force, it has a place in Indian politics. No individual had the divine right to claim its leadership, particularly if under that leadership, the party has lost 90% of the elections it has contested in the last 10 years. This triggered off many theories. Now, one theory was, predictably, that Mamata was now telling her old party that it needed a worthier leader, someone with a track record of fighting and beating Modi Shah BJP more than once, and not its reluctant dynasty, because that's what the dynasty looks like right now in the Congress party, particularly Rahul. Second theory was that Prashant Kishore had actually meant to clarify her move. First, by comforting the Congress that they weren't planning to gobble up all its political space, but that they, like all of the opposition, had a stake in the party reviving itself, in the Congress reviving itself. And second, that this won't happen under Congress party's current leader, namely Rahul Gandhi. So they should bring about a change. So this was almost like an inspired call for the equivalent of a shareholders' revolt, asking shareholders to revolt in a company to seek management change rather than a hostile takeover. A hostile takeover would be if TMC was trying to take over the Congress party. All non-BJP parties in India, even though still in the NDA tent, even as they sulk in their irrelevance, because BJP doesn't particularly need them, it doesn't even suffer them, right? They all have issues with the BJP. Individually, none has the ability to take the BJP on or even bring some balance of power in the situation, so their bargaining position with the center, and more importantly, over its use of its quote-unquote agencies would improve. They are all desperate for that to happen. They may be able to contain the BJP in their individual states, right? And you know the states that can contain the BJP, from Mamata Banerjee to Stalin in Tamil Nadu to many others across the country. So they may be able to contain the BJP in their individual states, but nationally they also know that even if a dozen of them get together, they will be cut down piecemeal, one by one by one by one. The challenge needs to have a core. This challenge to Narendra Modi needs to have a core with a presence across multiple states. None of these parties really has that. That part is still with the Congress, right? That's why they need the Congress. That's why they desperately need the Congress. In short, the opposition in India has a Congress-sized problem. Now, no political force likes to be asked hard questions, whether they are a dominant force or whether they are a force driven to irrelevance. Dominant like the BJP today, near irrelevance like the Congress party, but not irrelevant. And I want to underline that. Introspection, internal debate, or Chintan Manthan or Chintan Baitak, thinking and churning as it's usually called in our politics, is even tougher for today's parties, because almost all parties today, frankly, all parties today without exception, are owned by a personality or their dynasty. Even the left, which used to be quite democratic at the top, now is confined to one state where it's Pinarayi Vijayan's party. So not as much of a personality cult as say a Samajwadi Party or BSP or even BJP now, but still it's a personality driven party. So these personality driven party where everybody has to always profess loyalty to the big boss or the big bosses, it's very difficult for them to introspect. That's why the first reaction is to rally around the leader, jump on the defensive and to crush the messenger's toes, which is what happened in this case. For example, see how Congress, at least for a while, switched from attacking Narendra Modi, even as another shambolic session of the parliament began, and diverted fire to Prashant Kishore instead. And you saw that tweet from brilliant Congress spokesperson, and I say brilliant seriously because I think he's one of the best spokespersons as a debater for any party on TV these days, Pawan Kheda, who said, hell hath no fury like a strategist scorned, obviously referring to the fact that Prashant Kishore had also at one point worked with the Congress party or planned to work with the Congress party and had taken those discussions to some distance, but it didn't work out. Now, arguments like these are not won or lost by anybody. But similarly, no one can change the reality of numbers, however brutal that reality may be. Here is the number that works for the Congress. So I'm first of all listing the number that is good for the Congress. And that number is that even in its second successive annihilation by the BJP, 2019 and after 2014, Congress retained a solid, unshakable 20% vote bank. 20% is a lot of votes. That is more than any four parties other than the BJP together. And you can pick those four parties from UPA, NDA or anywhere you feel like. Congress party's 20% was more than any four parties in India other than the BJP. That's why all of BJP's victims, which we sometimes facetiously describe as the BJP Pidit Samaj, want the Congress to revive because they know that Congress may not be able to stop the BJP in the sense that Congress may not be able to defeat the BJP or help defeat the BJP. Because even at 20%, Congress is about a half of what the BJP got in 2019. That's nearly 40%. So the gap is a lot. But even if this 20% becomes 28%, there might still be an NDA government, but it will then be an NDA government, not a BJP majority government. And it will be a very different kind of government. But for that, they need Congress to be able to go at least from that 20 to 28, not go from 20 to 17 this time. Now, Mamata Banerjee and Prashant Kishore would have to be delusional to believe that they can build such a formidable TMC wave pan-nationally as to have 13 crore or so committed Congress voters to shift to them. Equally, they no longer harbor the illusion that Gandhis can revive the party and threaten a clear majority for the BJP. That's why they want a new leadership for the Congress. So this is when other parties which are against the BJP want to elect a new leadership for the Congress. Ironical, but that is the truth. Or they offer the Congress party of seeing itself, they say, okay, you see yourself as a startup. Don't see yourself as India's oldest political party. See yourself as a startup with an initial capital of 13 crore votes and a new management. Of course, the management will be theirs. That is the TMC's. So that is the kind of deal that the TMC now seems to be offering the Congress party if the Congress party does not get its act together, which means beginning by changing its leadership. Now, there are other ways of looking at the figures for the Congress. One is to remember that it has only 53 members in Lok Sabha. Now, which isn't even 10% of the House, although it is 9 more, it's an improvement of 9 over 2014. But when you dice it further, it becomes more problematic for the Congress party. Where do the party's seats come from? Kerala brings 15 and Punjab 8. And both are to party's own credit. The party won the seats in Kerala and Punjab on its own strength. Then the 8 in Tamil Nadu are owed mostly to the big brother there, a big sister there, that is DMK. Then follows the kind of score a cricket team has in a score of 53 all out when the opening batsman score is the only one to get to double figures, right? So 3 each in Assam and Telangana, 2 each in Chhattisgarh and West Bengal, and then 1 each in 12 states. In fact, I have the list right here, and I'll read all of it to you. Kerala 15, Punjab 8, Tamil Nadu 8, then Assam, Telangana 3 each, then Chhattisgarh, West Bengal 2 each, and after that, Andaman and Nicobar, Bihar, Goa, Himachal Pradesh, that is now because they won a by-election, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Meghalaya, Odisha, Puducherry, Uttar Pradesh, one each, right? So your opening batter gets 15 and after that you have this kind of score. That's how you get to 53 all out. It is still 53 all out. That reality doesn't change. Now, under that significant of 20%, therefore, lies the ugly reality of the party not scoring double figures in any state except Kerala. Today, can it expect to do much better in Kerala in a fresh election, or can it expect to do much better nationally in a fresh election? Repeating this in Kerala will be a challenge because 15 seats is a lot in Kerala out of 20 odd. In Tamil Nadu, they'll be at the DMK's mercy again, and we don't know how alliances will work in Tamil Nadu. In Punjab, they are divided now. Earlier, they could have said Punjab they control, but in Punjab, they are now divided. And in Telangana, West Bengal, and Assam, they are weakened further. The harsher truth at the bottom line is that unlike almost any other opposition party in the country, the Congress is the only one that does not own a state. Until a couple of months ago, it could make that claim about Punjab. It has now worked really hard and quite successfully to ensure that it is no longer so. It cannot say that they own the state of Punjab because we don't know. They also don't know what's going to happen because many new factors have come in with Amrinder going away and the alliance between Amrinder and BJP, withdrawal of farm bills. Now, in comparison, TMC has West Bengal. TMC owns West Bengal, right? Majority of the seats in parliament, and they won a fresh election in the state. Stalin owns Tamil Nadu. Two of India's three large states that send more than 40 MPs to Lok Sabha, are in that sense controlled or owned by Mamata Banerjee and Stalin. Congress splits Kerala with the left on Vidhan Sabha, Lok Sabha basis. Congress gets a majority of the seats in Lok Sabha, but loses by a large majority to the left in Vidhan Sabha. So it does not own that state. Nowhere else does it even come close. In Maharashtra, where it has followed the chalice of poison to stay in the ruling alliance, it is now the weakest of the three partners. It's weaker even than NCP. YS Jaganmohan Reddy and KCR dominate their states. The Thakres have risen in status in Maharashtra. Congress begins with just 2 Lok Sabha seats in Chhattisgarh and none in Rajasthan. The two large states, it still rules. In all of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Haryana, Uttarakhand, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Himachal Pradesh and West Bengal, it has only 10 seats. 10 out of how many? 10 out of 286. Right? It is doing that badly in all these states. And these states are significant because all these states, it has ruled more than once in the past, some even since the rise of the BJP post 1989. In conclusion, it is wrong to say that Congress does not matter. It matters. Certainly one set of people who do not believe that for a minute is the BJP, because if BJP believed Congress does not matter, they would not be attacking the Congress all the time, even when they are campaigning in UP, because they know Congress is the only party that can be a larger threat to them going ahead. And that's why even in his speech in Parliament on Constitution Day, Narendra Modi called dynastic politics a threat to democracy. It is also wrong to deny that Congress has no ideological glue or heft left, and that no person swears by it anymore. If that wasn't so, which means if it did not have some ideological glue, so I'm actually saying that it does have some ideological fuel left in it. If that wasn't so, many more would have gone to the BJP from the Congress. Some have gone, but many others have not gone to the BJP, and we know that BJP is trying to tempt them. And certainly so many others would not have preferred to go to still marginal parties on a national basis, like say the TMC. Equally, it is lazy and self-destructive of those in the Congress who hang on to the inevitability of the voters ultimately saying, "Arey Baba, what a terrible mistake I made voting for Narendra Modi twice. I am now giving my vote back to the Congress party because they are the natural party of power and power should go back to them." It is not going to happen just like that. And if Congress people continue to believe that, note that other data point. In the two general elections of 2014 and 2019, in all of the Lok Sabha seats, where it was the main challenger to the BJP, where Congress was the main challenger to the BJP, it won only 8% of the Lok Sabha seats. That means BJP won 92 out of 100. It is this that scares those still not in the Modi camp. That's why they have such a big stake in either the Congress reviving itself, or maybe they're trying a takeover of the Congress, or if nothing else works, then try and balkanize Congress's votes and grab as much as they can.